This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, hello. It's great to be back again today with a wonderful subject, creating your own space when working side by side. And Greg and I are here together today because this is a very relevant topic. And thanks for being with me today.
Sure. Good to be here. Good to talk to all of you.
Yes. A couple of announcements first. Our music membership, Learn Music Again. The cart is definitely open, but we have some great freebies. Make sure you take advantage of the sheet music, the MP3, also a free 3-video course that you'll want to go through. It's good for beginners as well as intermediates. So it's a good review. I think it'll give you a lot of confidence. And I only open up the music membership once a quarter, so make sure you take advantage of that at learnmusicagain.com. So let's just dive right into this topic. Greg and I have offices right next to each other. And we have had offices right next to each other long before our shutdown, and where people now are working so much more remotely. And now they're forced to work at home or even side by side. So, and we are right next to each other. So there's a door between us, which is very fortunate, actually. But it's been this way since you started your business. And what sort of business that you have? You've got the financial.
Yeah, I had a registered investment advisor service. So I was meeting with clients, talking with people on the phone, talking to brokers and different agents. So
Yes, and of course I've been working in the music field. So I've got a number of keyboards in my office, and not, I mean, an overkill, but yeah, more than most people have.
Yep.
And doing video and a number of different things. So, we're very, very different, and we have different sort of needs for privacy.
But they were both working offices, and
Yes.
at the same time we had needs for privacy, both to talk to clients and or to study, to think, and those kinds of things.
Exactly. And of course you were dealing with compliance, so you had certain areas that needed locked up and everything. So,
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And we both had assistants as well. I had a number of interns as well as an assistant, and you had an assistant a couple days a week. So we were dealing with that. And I remember my assistant, Kathy, we call her?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. She'd look out the window at the lizards doing their push-ups. So we have some good memories with that. So really at the start of 2020, there were a small number of home offices, but it was really a growing trend from what I've read. But now the number, as we do this episode, it's jumped to almost 75% of offices are now remote. And of course, we have some people going in because they're part of the medical field, they're part of what's called the necessary businesses, but many, many people are, remote. We're going to cover on a couple different areas here. Respecting each other's space is where we're going to start. We're going to cover about 4 areas here, but in how we do that, respecting each other's space. It's not just giving each other's space. So comment on that just a little bit of what that is here.
Well, I think some of this is having conversations up front about how you're going to handle priorities and things. If people will just think about their days, our days kind of go through lulls, and then there's moments of intensity where you either need to think, you need to be left alone, you need to return an urgent phone call. There's an email you got to craft just right, and it's got to go out. Mm-hmm. So in moments like that, it's necessary that you can guard your isolation so that you can execute. And the conversation is simply, what do we do in situations like that? Whatever comes up, do we put a sign on the door? Do we, slip something under the door? Maybe you set up a instant messaging, system between your two computers, saying on a call, I'll get back to you in 30 minutes.
Right.
I guess you could text.
Right.
But if you'll communicate, so that somebody doesn't get their head bit off in the middle of a workday, then when you get together for dinner, you don't have to go through a bunch of apologies.
Yeah, that's really important. We've lived through that, definitely. And especially because we have a door between us, but you have to go through my office to get outside. So
Right.
if I put signs on the door. If I'm recording, if I'm doing something, I actually put signs on the door, and to make sure there's no knocks or things going on. And we know now to respect that.
And for the most part, that works really well, except, every now and then there's, some emergency, and she's still got 5 minutes to go on a call, and I really need to get into my office.
Yeah.
But, you've got to keep in mind that the advantages of working home together outweigh the disadvantages. So you just, have to swallow some stuff.
Right.
And one of the great advantages of working at home is you're saving a lot on rent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So those moments of inconvenience, if you can quickly go, man, I just saved X amount of dollars this month, though, it tends to help get through those moments of anxiety.
Right. And I do feel very fortunate. Our space that we have is really pretty separate from our house. There are not a lot of people that have separate space from their house. It's attached to our house, but it's a separate space. And that makes a difference. If you have to go through, you're working in the living room or something, and it's how do you separate that space, and how do you do, sort of respect each other?
I mean, if I was working in the living room or even the kitchen, I think a portable partition that you could put up that would block your view.
Yes.
Just for your work hours. And then, move the portable partition somewhere else when the workday is done. I think that might work.
Yes.
Build your own cubicle.
Yes.
Is kind of the idea, so that you can't see. And again, you can use the signs. Just hang them right off the outside of the cubicle, and say in session, on a call, need till 2:30. Whatever the message might be, and.
I think. Yeah.
And probably the only other thing would be quiet. It's easy for us to kind of stay quiet because we're in different offices. But if you're in the living room or the kitchen, and somebody else needs to race in and out, or if you got kids, that would be a challenge.
And it really is a challenge. I think a lot of people are going through that, and that was kind of my second point of a closed door policy. You may not have a door, so you may have just a partition, but I think a lot of this comes down to communication. And if you've never had to communicate through some of this before, and you've got kids and the expectations is like, okay, well, why aren't you taking care of the kids? Because I'm on a really important call. Or why don't you, there are some now that are homeschooling. They're doing a lot of things. They're sharing those responsibilities. So, but you're still working. I mean, we've got a lot of people just trying to survive right now.
Right.
And still working. And I like to work. Of course, I continued working remotely through when our kids were small, but not as much. So I was able to vary my schedule, or we were able to work out our schedule together.
Right.
Back and forth.
And the important thing about kids is you can train dogs to have boundaries.
Yeah.
And they're not as smart as your kids. You can teach your kids to have boundaries. And just having raised 3 boys, I can tell you that if you reach out and touch them periodically, every couple hours, just let them know you're checking in, that you love them, and then put the boundary back up. You will not emotionally scar them. Now, it varies. If they're 3, it's completely different than if they're 12.
Right.
But, both of you are working at home. You can tag team,
Yes.
providing the physical proximity. And, that's just something that needs to be scheduled and, and talked through.
Comes down again to communication, and if you've never had to communicate that up to this point,
right,
all of a sudden it's a shock, and you're going, we're fighting all the time, or we can't. This is all horrible. People are having trouble here.
Yeah, and most fights are always around two or three things that for whatever reason people just want to put off talking about solutions, and instead of talking about solutions, they'd rather hurl at somebody because they don't want to get in a conversation where they might have to give up something.
Right.
If you can focus on an issue, you and I have always put the issue on the table so that I'm not talking at you and you're not talking at me. We're rather discussing something that's outside of us. That works really well, to talk about the issue and not the fact that you're always walking in and out, or how is it that you're always interrupting me, or your timing is impeccable. Whenever I'm about to close a deal, you walk in. The hurling just doesn't help.
Yes.
Something like I was about ready to close a deal, and you interrupted me. So can we talk about the issue and then put the issue out there of how do we protect each other's space, especially during critical moments of the day where important phone calls are happening.
Yeah.
And, just talk about it. And, I can't imagine that generally signs or instant messages or something like that isn't going to help.
Yes, that will. And these can be tough conversations if you've never had them before, and be brave doing that. But again, keeping that other person, you want that respect. That was our number one, keeping that respect there of each other's space. But wanting to make sure that both of you feel respected too. If you're both pulling on this together, pulling through.
That brings up an important issue, because it could be that one or the other has a thriving business and the other one has a seasonal business, or maybe it's an upstart.
Yes.
And one of the businesses is actually paying the bills, and the other one is hopefully going to help you become more wealthy.
Yes.
Maintaining respect there is really important. Let's say the wife has developed the business selling pajamas, out of the house, and it's going great, and she's selling 5,000 pairs a month. And the husband is starting up in an insurance business, working as a broker out of the house. The bills are getting paid by what the wife is doing, and it's gone past the tipping point, and it's just organically growing now. Whereas the insurance business is taking, you're pushing this big heavy wagon uphill. The temptation can be for the pajama business person to feel like their business is more important than the other business.
Yes.
And that's another issue, and that needs to go out on the table.
Yes.
And together as a couple, you need to decide, are we going to give priority to one business over the other, or are we going to treat both of these equal?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what you come up with,
Right.
but it's important that you both view the value of the business equally.
Right.
Not that they're equal, but that you have the same view.
Right. And we are definitely an illustration of this because you never made me feel like my business was less important.
Right. But that was based on a conversation.
Yes, it was based on a conversation, but you were paying most of the bills. But I was also managing kids and my business. And so I was doing a lot of writing as well at the same time. So there wasn't always that cash flow that was coming in as much. It was delayed. So, but you always respected me. Which I really appreciated.
Well, I always valued what you were doing.
Right,
so,
right.
But we talked about that often. So,
yes.
And one of the things, just so you know, that I did is I affirmed the value that Debbie was contributing to the kids, to the family, to the house, to our future together as she built a business.
Right.
Because I think we all kind of figure out, kind of instinctively, who's really carrying the load and who's kind of along for the ride.
Right.
And the person who's along for the ride can feel instinctively less value.
Yes.
Their esteem is down. And so it's important for the one who is earning the bread to, feed their esteem, and tell them that you believe in them.
Yes, that is a really, really important point. A lot of this is coming down to communication, isn't it? It's a lot of it. I had another point here of taking breaks and the importance of this. And we are in a place where, we can go outside, take a walk, and we've got home offices here. And I like to trim bushes and whatever because it's a total diversion for me. And I trim a lot. But the importance of this is even if you're in a small place, you can do some sort of exercise and you can walk. But we talked about when you're at a home office, there's a real temptation to keep going by the kitchen. And, okay, so I'm going to take a break. Now, what am I going to eat? Okay, so let me take another break. Now, what am I going to eat?
Yeah, you really have to schedule eating. You can't eat as you feel like it. It has got to be scheduled because otherwise you snack your way into oblivion.
Yes, and it has a direct influence on your blood sugar and all of that to where your energy level. So, I take my little mid-morning break and just make sure I have something that'll keep my energy up. And we had a son.
Yeah, but you're really good. You're really good at keeping the routine.
Yes,
and,
definitely.
Generally, you eat about at the same time in mid-morning, and you generally eat pretty much the same thing.
Yes,
mid-morning.
Yes. Yeah, and I think because we just touched on that a little bit, let's talk about routine because we could keep different hours, of course, with our space. But how important is that?
I think people have got to understand how they work best. And Debbie and I are opposite in this way, in that Debbie likes to put her head down and check things off. She just likes to plow through. And she's really good at the night before creating a list of what she wants to do the next night or next day. So her schedule is one that you can kind of, check off. I, on the other hand, generally like to think about things for a long time. And then as soon as I get the answer, I'll spend as much time as I need to get it done. So you can see in Deb's day, scheduling in routine breaks makes sense because the way she patterns her life is almost more like an hourly employee. And, I need, solid time alone just to execute, and then I need solid time alone just to think. And for me, if I'm trying to figure out a solution, I can actually turn on the news and pretend that if you came in, you would think I was watching it, but really, I'm thinking about all the things that I am trying to solve. Some people can go for a walk. I do that sometimes. Sometimes I'll just pick up a random book and read for it a little bit. And all of this is kind of important because working at home, you can work from like 4 in the morning until 10 at night. I mean, the office doesn't close.
Right.
And the goal of having an office at home isn't becoming a workaholic.
Right.
But we're discovering that one thing we like to do is, break mid-afternoon and either get in a walk or get some pruning done or some yard work. And then after dinner, we'll come back in and put a couple hours in and get it done. And the notion of being done at 5 kind of goes back to two things. One is the agricultural background that America has. And, at most of the time during the year, the sun kind of goes down around 5 and you run out of daylight and you can't work anymore. Right. Another thing is when the unions instituted factory job issues back in the early 20th century, 8 to 5 became kind of the standard of what a workday was. Prior to that, people were working a lot longer. And, I would probably guess, given that you normally have about 8 or 9 hours of daylight, that's what God designed it, kind of a 8 or 9 hour workday. But given that most of us aren't doing farming and we're no longer in a manufacturing thing, you can get your 8 or 9 hours in any way you want to. You can do 3-hour stints.
Right.
You can do a 5-hour stint in the morning when you got lots of energy, and you can do a 2-hour something mid-afternoon and another 2 hours after dinner. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you get the 9 hours in, as long as you get the 9 hours.
Right.
And one of the advantages of working at home is that you can take some breaks.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, as you were talking about that, my thoughts go back to, I love to watch the old fashioned movies, and, they got a lamp, they've got to light the wick of the lamp to even have light at night. And you're going to try to read by that. And I mean, here we have all of the conveniences. If our electricity shuts down or something happens at night and we got a flashlight, it's like, oh.
Yeah, right.
Or my computer doesn't come on or something. Yeah, we're frustrated. So, but yeah, and I wanted to talk about that because I think that's relevant here, is shutting it down and how to shut it down. And you mentioned agriculture, and they would normally shut it down, in the evening and after a very long day. And a lot of those guys, though, I know they start very, very early at certain times of the year where it's just getting light. They are out on those, they're outside. But in shutting your brain down, let's talk about your sort of routine, because at night, I have a hard time if I do anything, because I've been in music for so long. If I do anything in music toward the evening, my head will just be going music all night. Or if I'm writing something especially, it will just keep inventing or keep going.
I think both of us are the same way that way. If we're in a creative or problem-solving mode after dinner, we'll keep chewing on that problem or chewing on whatever storyline we're trying to create, and it'll interrupt our sleep.
Yes.
If we limit ourselves to after dinner to doing task-oriented things, things like putting stamps on an envelope and getting it ready for the mail the next day, or going through your checklist and what things do you want to do, those kinds of things that need to get done but weren't urgent during the middle of the day.
Right.
Those are the better things to work on.
Right.
If you're going to begin on problem solving or creativity, the best thing to do is to write down about a paragraph or two of what you want to work on tomorrow. Where you want to move the story ahead, some ideas you had about the problem. But if you get them down on paper, you'll find that you can leave them there on your desk and go to sleep and sleep well. So, but don't try to quit in the middle of problem solving thing at 9:30 and hope that you can just go to bed because it's going to be 1:30 and you're still chewing on it.
I know, and so many of my studio sessions have been at night, or early on actually. Then I started booking them more in the daytime, but just to be able to shut the brain down. Like last night, it was a great illustration that I wrote out scripts for some of the little videos I was going to do early this morning and send in emails. Those were done. I had my scheduled, a lot of things that I had scheduled for today. I wrote it down, so I just leave it on my desk. I know I can hit it. Even the emails that I was actually going to email out, they were done. They were formatted. So then I can end my day completely. And I did that after dinner, just a couple things after dinner. And then, my little routine is I read something totally a little bit different right before bed and I'm able to fall asleep and have a good night's sleep. Then my mind is not spinning on something and, creating something. So, those are great points. Well, anything else? I'm going to review through a couple of these things.
I think one other thing is you don't snack while you're working after dinner.
Ooh.
Just stay focused on preparing for the next day, and then reward yourself with a glass of water, a diet soda, something. But don't use snacks to help you stay in your seat.
Yeah.
I've fallen into the trap of doing that because I think that having something on my stomach will help me sleep. And all that really does is help you gain weight.
Yeah. A lot of people needed to hear that right now, I think. It's to keep, because our routines, I'm used to first thing pop out of bed, I go to the gym. So, I usually work a little bit before that, but my routine has been broken up. I'm doing walks, but it's different. So, for all of us, I think even remote working, we have to be even more vigilant on that. So, to review today, this was, I think, a very relevant topic for many, especially for the couples that are working together. I mean, you might have just a roommate working together. You might be doing the same thing. But respecting each other's space, a lot of communication, and really being on each other's team. I think I've always felt like you've been on my team, but I've always known, okay, so who needs the priority as well, as long as we communicate. There have been times we've not communicated well.
Right.
And I've been like, I got to cut that, when I'm recording or something will happen like that.
But that's part of why we can talk about this.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't always worked well.
Yes, we've had to work through it ourselves, definitely. And giving yourself a space. If you are in a little kitchen area or a little living room area, just to have a portable little divider. And I even have one for my office because I have a lot of things in here that I'm working on. And sometimes when I want to do a video, I want a little bit different background. It works really well for that. And taking breaks, even taking breaks to exercise, it will increase your energy. Sometimes we don't think it will. But boy, you go for a little bike ride.
We know somebody who will take a slightly extended lunch, and before he eats, he'll work out.
Yeah.
So at 12:30 he'll go for an hour and a half workout. At 2 he eats, and then he's back to work by 3, and he might work till 7.
Yeah.
And the reason is because he's eaten, and he rewarded himself in the middle of the day with a workout.
Yes.
So when you feel like you've gotten the important things done, you don't mind finishing up your day even if it's at 7.
And I think I know who you're talking about because he looks amazing still because he's kept his routine. So that's really important. So taking those little breaks and to schedule if you're going to have a snack, make sure mid-morning I either have, a 100-calorie little protein bar or a little something there that I know will keep my energy up. And then we need to know our shutting down at night sort of routine there, the problem solving. If we keep on that, we're going to have a hard time even resting, and then we're going to be tired the next day. But the routines are very, very important in setting those. those throughout our day, and continuing to respect each other's routine. And your days are going to be different. Each day is a little different, depending on what you're doing. I'm always doing something a little different each day, whether I'm, producing. Yesterday I produced quite a bit of video. Was that yesterday or day? I think it was Saturday, wasn't it? Yeah.
But it's all scheduled.
Yes, it was scheduled. And I knew you were going to be away a couple hours, and I had the total freedom to do that. So, it was scheduled. I knew I could plan on it. So, well, thank you so much, Greg, for being with me today.
Sure. Glad to be with everybody.
Yeah, and I really enjoy doing our sessions together. Once a month, Greg and I are on together, and it makes it really, really fun for me. Make sure you don't miss next week, because we've heard pretty often, I have at least, with crisis, it brings opportunity. But you're wondering, okay, so what sort of opportunity and where do I go? Well, I'm talking about where do you find inspiration next week. Talking about the subject of inspiration, creativity, all of that. And I have some great resources for you next week. So you want to make sure that you tune in. Also, as you listen, I hope you have subscribed so you don't miss any episodes, and tell your friends. And I love reviews. So if you can do that, this podcast is it's available on a number of different platforms besides, the iTunes, the Apple Music, and the Google Play, and a lot of those. So you can find it. And you can always find me at goalsforyourlife.com, womenathalftime.com. And remember our special offer here for a lot of free stuff on our learnmusicagain.com with the music membership. And if you used to want to play again, this is the place for you, at least to check out a lot of our free resources. So thanks again for being with me today, Deborah Johnson, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.